everybody, welcome back to Taji's World of Books and welcome to another book recommendation video. Hey everybody, welcome back and Merry Christmas to all of those, or Happy Christmas for those that celebrate Christmas, and Happy Holidays to everybody else. And so it has been a wild ride, and so I just want to come on really quick and talk about a series that I have been reading. I'm going to do it the way that I typically do, which is film it in some clips, because my memory is not great and I read so many books that as I read one I go do. And so anyway, let's just get on to it. So the series that I want to recommend to you is Nikki Sloane's, and it is the Blindfold Club series. There are, I want to say, 6 books, primary books in the series, and 2 novellas, I believe, but we'll see. At any rate, where I started is I started with the prequel, and it's called It Takes Two, and that's the prequel to the Blind Club series, and I'll put the little icon over here. And so basically it's like an introduction to the Blindfold Club, which is an exclusive club that caters to specific tastes of ultra wealthy people. You have to have a membership. It's a private club, and I'm assuming that there is a criteria that allows for one to become a member, and that is usually the Billionaires Boys Club. Okay, so in the prequel, we get introduced to it by Nina and Scott. And Nina is really down on her luck. She is like working multiple jobs to try to keep a roof over her head. And one of the jobs that she decides that she's going to take on is she is going to work on a porn set. And she goes to shoot a porn. And it's a one-day only shoot. And she's going to get paid very well to do it. And when she arrives, she meets the girl who kind of introduces her to the scene and kind of like walks her through what she's going to do. Basically, she didn't tell her everything. And Scott walks in, and Scott is like gorgeous. He is just absolutely phenomenal. And she's like, oh, I could do this, no problem. But then Ben walks in, and Nina is like, wait, what? And they're like, oh, they didn't tell you? Like, it's a 2-1. Like, it's an MFM scene. And Nina is like, oh. And Scott's like, because Scott, like, when Scott laid eyes on Nina, he was hoping that Ben wouldn't show up because Ben is running late. And so he's like, yes, I am all in. And if I get to do a scene with just her, then like, whatever, that'll be great. But Ben shows up. And so they ultimately do the scene together, and the scene is steamy hot, and it is not at all like a porn, like, you know, like a porn set. Like, you're just like kind of just going through the motions. Like, this is full on, and everybody is there for it and then some. And so once the scene is all over, you know, Ben is like, oh my God, that was amazing. I'd love to work with you again, like blah, blah, blah. And he like sort of takes off, and Scott is like, totally taken by Nina. And he has just broken up with his girlfriend. And, you know, to make a long story short, he's like, I want to see you again, like whatever. And she's like, this is so unprofessional. And he's like, I don't care. And so she goes out to her car, and her car is not working. And Scott's like, you know, he happens to be walking out, and he's like, listen, I want to see you again. I can totally help you out. Like, how about you come back to my place? I have, you know, I just need to clean up. I got a friend that can like look at your car and like, you know, take care of it or whatever. And everything sort of ensues from there, and they decide that they're going to embark on a relationship, and they're going to have some rules around the type of relationship that they're going to have. And he's like, you know, you're down on your luck. Let me introduce you to my friend Joseph. He has this club. He'll interview you, and if he thinks that you're a good fit, you can make a ton of money. Easy, easy, easy. And so she's like, I'm down. He takes her over to the Blindfold Club. I have trouble saying that. And he's like, you're going to interview for Joseph. And if Joseph likes you, then that's where you're working. It's an exclusive club, and he sort of explains it. And that is the introduction to the Blindfold Club. Okay, so then we move on to the next book in the series, and I was assuming that it was going to be more about Nina and Scott, and there's nothing about Nina and Scott in this book at all. This is about Payton and her best friend Evie, or Evelyn. Her name is Evelyn, but everybody calls her Evie if you have a close relationship, and Logan. Okay, so here's how the deal goes. Peyton works for the Blindfold Club, and she's one of their exclusive moneymakers, and she like works her own deals. She does whatever she wants to do because she is so like such a hot commodity. So she's at the Blindfold Club, and she's told Evie about it. Evie knows like about it, but Evie is like not that kind of girl. Like Evie is working as a marketing designer, I think like an ad executive, like she does design work. Okay, so she is at work with Logan, her boss, who is an asshole and a total jerk to her and just is like whatever. And Evie is pining away for her best friend. And every time her and her best friend, their timing just doesn't work out. Like they're never in the right place at the right time for them to hook up. They're either with other people or they're traveling, or it just never works out. And so she's like, you know, she's pining for this guy, and Peyton is like, girl, you just need to move on. And Peyton is a piece of work. Like Peyton pushes a lot of things, and we'll talk about Peyton in a minute. Okay, so a situation happens where Evelyn is at work and she makes a huge design error mistake, a huge mistake that is going to cost the client thousands of dollars, like $10,000. And it's totally her error. And so she has to own the error. And so her boss, she's like, listen, she brings it forward. She says to her boss, like, I made this error, you know, she is not even going to bring up the fact that it goes through multiple levels of sign off, including her boss had to sign off on this. And the client signed off on the final copy. Everybody signed off. Nobody caught the error. So, but it's her error, so she has to rectify it. So what does she have to do? She's like, you know what? I'm going to pay. I'm just going to send it back to printing, get the cost. Don't tell the client that I made this error. I'll fix it. I'll pay for it. Like whatever, it won't come out of their costs. And he's like, we can't do that. She's like, we're going to have to because we'll lose the account if we don't. He's like, fine. So they decide to do it. But Evie is like, I have no way. She's barely making rent. She lives in a studio efficiency apartment. She's struggling. She can barely do it. And so she's like, I got to come up with $10,000 by the weekend. Peyton's like, girl, come to the club. I told you, like, you can make you got an amazing rack. You look amazing. Like, you can do it. All you have to do is interview with Joseph. And so she's like, fine. She's like reluctant. She like goes and gets herself all together, and she goes to the club, and her interview with Joseph is that she has to give him a blowjob. And so she does it, and she's like, is not happy about it, but she's like, I have no other alternative here, or else I'll lose my job, and I've worked so hard to be in this company. And to make a long story short, she does this scene, and they said, okay, we'll put you on for one night. And they put her on for one night, and she's blindfolded, and a situation happens, and the story ensues from there. It is steamy. It is hot. There is a threesome that happens in here. There is, you know, the story between the main love interest. I don't want to say who it is, but the story between the main love interest is that they have to work. There has to build trust. They have to build a relationship. They're working towards understanding each other. You know, they're working towards fulfilling fantasies. You know, I'm gonna say that this series is more erotica than it is a true love story. Like, I don't think that there is enough in this behind the story to really build up to true like romance. You know, there's not a lot there. There's more erotica. Peyton does some stuff, like I think Peyton pushes things, and she pushes Evie into situations. Now, Evie is not opposed to it, but like if I were in Evie's situation and I was with my dude, and like there was a scene towards the end where it's, you know, Peyton is helping Evie set up a birthday present, and I feel like Peyton pushed a scene that maybe Evie wouldn't have necessarily participated in if Peyton didn't push. But I mean, it wouldn't be a book if it didn't. So I gave this a 4 out of 5 star. Like I said, I think it's more erotica than it is romance, but it's still a fun ride nonetheless. And that is Evie's story. The second book in the series that I have read so far is 3 Hard Lessons. And this is Peyton's story. And, you know, again, it is a sort of star-crossed lovers type situation where Peyton is supposed to go to dinner with Evie and her significant other, and her significant other is best friends with the male hero in this book. And so they're supposed to go to dinner together, and for whatever reason, they cancel because this guy over here is sick and can't go. And so then Evie is like, we're going to cancel, we're not going out. So the two characters over here that were supposed to be at this dinner are like, well, we're going to find something else to do. And the something else to do is Peyton says, I'm going to work that night. And the guy is told about the club, and he's like, he's going to the club. And so as a result of something that happens in this book, and Peyton makes a huge mistake, she ultimately gets fired from the club and has to figure out what to do next. Now, let me say this. Peyton's character is a complicated character. Peyton has slept with, because of her job, over 100 men. She has, she services 1 to 2 clients a week, plus, people that she's slept with, independently. Now, the significant other in this book, she's like, how many people have you slept? And he's like, probably 50. So, they talk a lot about the double standard between men and women, and that men can go out and sleep with whomever they want. It's not even a big deal. But if a woman does the same thing, then she's, labeled a whore, a slut, and all these things. Now, Peyton, I don't know, like they worked towards the relationship. There's a lot of trust issues that Peyton has to work on. She's been called so many names. She's not ashamed of her sexual proclivities. She loves who she is, but she is a commitment phobe. She's never allowed herself to love because of some things that have happened to her. She has never allowed herself to be vulnerable. So she struggles a great deal with how society views her, but she is 100% okay with who she is. And I feel like Peyton says, I just struggle with the choices that Peyton makes. Like, she's not my favorite character. And she's not my favorite character because she slept with as many people as I don't care about that. She's not my favorite character because I feel like she has a little bit of a double standard. She pushes things on Evie, and she does kind of things that I'm not comfortable with. So this was not, so while I loved her story, and I felt like her story was a 5 out of 5 star because of like the arc and what she had to go through and the wrap up, the way that it ultimately wrapped up sort of fell short for me. So I wound up giving it a 4 out of 5 star. And again, this is more erotica than it is romance. So that's that. Then one more rule is sort of the wrap up of these two characters and like really seeing where that all goes and to see that they get their HEA. And again, Peyton is doing Peyton stuff and Peyton is pushing things. And I just don't, she's not my favorite character. I love Evie. I love all the other characters. I loved Peyton's story with her significant other, but the antics that she does, is just a little much for me. So this was kind of fun, and it was quick and easy, and it wrapped up, like I said, those 2 books. So this was a 3 out of 5 star for me. And so then the next book in the series that I'm going into, that we're going to hop over onto the next clip, is 3 Little Mistakes. And this is Joseph's story. So it was much anticipated. I heard from Jen from the Book Refuge that this is the best book in the series. So I'm really excited about it. So let's go over there and talk about that. Hi. Okay, so I'm back to talk about the 3rd book in the Blindfold Club series, and this is 3 Little Mistakes, and I was highly anticipating this book, and it delivered. This is Joseph and Noemi's story. Joseph is, as we know, the owner of the club, the Blindfold Club. The Blindfold Club is one of many businesses that Joseph owns. He also owns a restaurant, and he owns a nightclub, and he owns the Blindfold Club that is actually a wine bar. And so technically what people are, it's a front for a brothel. It's a high-end escort service. But what the guys do is when they come in, they bid on expensive bottles of wine. And so that's what they're getting, a bottle of wine. But with the bottle of wine comes a surprise. And so Joseph meets Noemi in one of his clubs, at the club that he owns. And she has eyes on him, and he has eyes on her. And, their meet cute is really, it's really funny because she's so busy looking at him and so fixated on what's going on with the guy that's like above on the rafters, like looking down on them. And clearly he's somebody important, that she doesn't see the fight that has broken out around her. And she literally gets socked in the face. And so it's like drama. And so these are like 2 star-crossed lovers, opposites attract. She is a wholesome good girl that comes from, she is a socialite. She comes from a media mogul family, and that folds into the story. She comes from a mogul family, And Joseph is, you know, he's come up the ranks and he's worked hard and he's pulled himself together to become who he is now. So he has, like I said, he has 3 businesses. And so when he meets Noemi, he is like, he sees like a lamb come to slaughter and he is going to devour her. And so, you know, once they find, he decides to take her home. She doesn't want him to know where she lives, but she's, you know, equally attracted to him because she knows that he is a bad boy of epic proportions. And they try multiple times to kind of get things off the ground, and Joseph knows what he wants and he's not playing games. And Noemi backs out multiple times because she's so scared and so terrified of her own shadow. She's only been with one other person. That was her fiance, whom she recently broke up with because he is so selfish and self-centered. You know, there are things that she needs to discover about herself, and, you know, about herself sexually. She's like never had an orgasm with another person, and so like all of these things, and Joseph is the complete opposite of that. And what I love so much about this book is that he is slowly but surely introducing her to multiple things and pushing her boundaries. And her favorite saying is wait, wait. But Joseph has learned that when she says wait, she means go, go, push, more, more, more. This book was so good. It was just so good. I even love because you're in it with her. Like when he's putting her in these situations and forcing and stretching her boundaries and making her step outside her comfort zone, she's trembling. And like her trembling is like what drives him. And like, and it's, he has to explain to other, you know, people that they introduce into the situation that her trembling is not that she's terrified and that she's fearful. She's opening up and becoming awakened. This was a 5 out of 5 star. This was absolutely my favorite book in the entire series. I mean, it was really good. Well, actually, yeah, this and another one is really good. So I love this. This is so good. Now, these can be read as standalones. They really can be. But I'm going to say don't read them as standalones because you have cameos of other couples that occurred in previous books that happen in here. And so if you don't want to be spoiled for that and you want to have the best reading experience, you probably should read them in order. But I'm loving this series. Like, it is so good. Like, I know what I said about the first couple books, but now, like, in hindsight, after I've read the entire thing, I'm going to go and put them in order and tell you what my favorites are. But this one was good. It was so good. So I think Noemi and Joseph are probably my favorite couple of like all of the couples, like for sure. These are the best. It's so good. Oh, so good. Okay. Then the next book that I read is 3 Dirty Secrets, and let me say, this was not my favorite book in the series. The entire series I'm absolutely loving, but this particular book in particular I didn't care for because it has some of the tropes that I don't like. Now, Joseph does keep secrets over here, and those secrets definitely seek to almost destroy things for him. But I understand why he kept secrets, and I understand why she keeps secrets over here as well. But I guess I just didn't, I don't know, like I didn't like their dynamic. So this is Regan and Silas's story. And Silas is a tattoo artist, and he's introduced to Regan by Joseph because Regan is introduced into the scene because she becomes one of the barters. I forget what they call the term, but she basically sits in the room and she's like the negotiator. She negotiates the term for the wine that they're buying. And so once the dollar set is like the dollar amount is set, then Regan exits. But Regan, when she came to work for Joseph, said, I will not be on the table. I am not for sale. However, I will negotiate and barter deals for you. So that's Regan's job. So Regan has a history, and she has a scar on her body, which will be revealed in this book. And she decides that she wants to forget about this past, and she's going to get a tattoo. Now, right previously to this, Regan was in a long-term relationship, and she uses the excuse that I'm in a long-term relationship, hence why I don't want to get on the table. I'm not going to barter myself, but I will barter your deals. So the boyfriend that she had, she walks in after she suffers from severe migraines. After getting a severe migraine at work and leaving early, she goes home, and when she's home, when she walks through the door, she catches her boyfriend cheating on her in their house. And so she just is like, get out, I'm done, just go. And so once that happens, she decides that she's going to make some changes in her life. Namely, one of the changes that she's going to make is she's going to cover this scar and this old wound and this old hurt, and that the story is revealed. She is then sent by Joseph to Silas, and Silas is an artist. He's an artist, like an actual, like, legit artist, and he tattoos on the side because he just loves it. And so they have tremendous chemistry. They're both dominants. They're both alphas. The bedroom turns into a battlefield because they're battling it out in terms of, you know, supremacy and who's going to come out on top and who's going to dom who and who's going to top who. And so, like, I just didn't like that dynamic, and I felt like in order for this to work, she had to come out on top, and I never liked that dynamic. I like it to be equally balanced, or a little bit where I'm on top outside and I'm doing my thing and navigating, but you're doming me in the bedroom. Like, that's my gig. I like that more, and this was not that, and so I just didn't care for it. And then also, they introduced somebody else into the situation, and in all these books, somebody else is introduced. There's always a threesome kind of dynamic going on somewhere in every one of these books, but it's different. People's boundaries are different, and their hard limits are very different, and so that comes out. Whereas in this book, they introduced a third person into the party, and that third person was intimately involved with each of the partners. And for me, that, like, now, I don't know, like, it just didn't work for me. I didn't like it. And so, and that's just me personally. That's not kink shaming. That has nothing to do with it. I like when you're introducing other parties and we're playing and we're maybe crossing a little bit of boundaries, but there are some limits, whether that be no kissing, no sex, you know, whatever that is. And that didn't occur in this book. It just felt, I don't know, like, to me, it infringed on their relationship, but that's just my thinking on it. So this particular book, I gave it a 3 out of 5 star. I think there were a lot of secrets. I think a lot of people harbored secrets. I think that it didn't work its way out. Like, I don't know. I just didn't care for this one as much, and I don't have to. So, like, that's that one. And then this book, oh my gosh, this book is so good. This is Three Sweet Nothings, and this is a second chance romance. This is Kyle, and Kyle is the brother of Peyton, and we see Peyton in this book, and this is Peyton and Dom's story. And so, and Peyton and Dom are just amazing, amazing, amazing characters. And so Peyton's brother comes back into town because some things have happened in New York where he lived, and he had to leave, and now he's working for the parents, because, you know, Peyton's family are all they have a long history of being attorneys, right? And so they own a law firm in Chicago. So Peyton, he is introduced at the end of this book because of some things that happen. And when he's introduced at the end of this book, we know then that he has a story here. And this is a second chance romance that happens between him and a character named Regan. And it is so phenomenal. Joseph makes a cameo in here. Peyton makes a cameo. We see Dom. We hear about Logan and Evie. We just hear about all the characters in this one, but this book is so heart-wrenching and so gut-wrenching, and having to work through miscommunications and lack of communications and how things just blow up if people just have conversations and just work through things. It is just so good. I cannot speak highly enough about this book. It is phenomenal. It's amazing. Like, I don't know if this book or this book is my favorite. They both are equally good. They both are 5 out of 5 star. They both are, like, absolutely phenomenal. I'm gonna say, like, these two are my top #1 books for sure. Then comes this book, which is Peyton and Dominic's story, which I loved as well. Then comes Logan and Evelyn. Logan and Evelyn's story. And so this is I don't know, that's gonna be the last book. And then this sort of falls in because that's a wrap up. So now I am going to get into 3 Guilty Pleasures. This is Grant's book. Grant is really good friends with Regan. They're best friends, been friends forever, haven't started it yet. And I'm gonna dive in, and we are gonna hop over to the last and final clip, and I'll see you over there. Hi, so I wanted to jump on and talk about the final book in the Blindfold Club series. There are 8 works in this book. This is the final book. This is Tara and Grant's story. Now let me say this. When I first jumped on here, you guys know that my least favorite book in this series is 3 Dirty Secrets. And this is Regan's story. And I just don't like Regan because I don't like how the dynamic went down between Regan and Silas. I think that Regan lied to everybody. I understand why she lied, because she had to harbor a secret. I get it, but I just felt like it's double standard, and she felt like she was justified in what she was doing, and I didn't care for her. And so when I started to read Grant's story with Tara, I knew that Tara was the third in the situation with Silas and Regan, and I was like, oh shit, I got to deal more with Regan's ass and her lying and that whole situation. But let me say that what I was bothered by and what I was upset, Joseph vindicated 100% at the end of this book. And I was like, yes, Joseph, handle your business. So this is about Tara, and Tara is a submissive, and she is the third in a relationship with Silas and Regan, because they are both doms and there's like war in the bedroom basically, and so they needed somebody to top. She's not with them all the time, but she is, like, you know, she gets together with them about once a month. So she meets Grant because Grant is a celloist, and he is part of a local, like, you know, orchestra, and she is performing for an audition, and she makes a mistake on stage, and she falls off stage, and she basically falls into Grant's lap. Now, unbeknownst to her, Grant has some secrets and some stuff that is behind the scenes, but they're really innocent secrets, or innocent things, but they turn into big secrets because he doesn't divulge and be honest about it. And she is harboring that she works at the Blindfold Club. She doesn't want to tell him about it, but she does tell him that she's in a relationship with two doms and that she is the bottom. And she does, you know, they put some rules on her, and they say, you can't do this, you can't do that, and if you break the rules, then, you know, you have to suffer the consequences. And when she tells Grant about this, Grant is curiously interested, and he's not turned off by this, and he wants to know more, and he's definitely down to play. And so the story sort of unfolds from there, and this is just about a coming of understanding of yourself, figuring out your limits, figuring out what you are willing to do, what you're not willing to do, what you want, what you don't want, what you want from your partner, whether or not the fantasies that live in your head, are you able to actually act them out and be part of that in reality. And then, you know, it's also about, you know, a group of friends, and so you get to see every cast of characters, everybody that came up in every other book comes up in this book as well. And this is one of my favorite books. I gave it a 5 out of 5 star. I'm glad Tara got her story. I'm glad Tara she worked through some stuff, and Grant had to work through some stuff, and Joseph was like, I'm the man to do it. And I didn't want Regan and Silas to be the ones to do that. They were part of it, but they respected, once it was all worked out, I love that Regan and Silas respected that Tara and Grant have a relationship, and there's affection between the two of them, and that relationship is primary. And so even if she bottoms, or if she is a sub for them, it's very different, and it's part of their kink. And their kink is that Silas can have sex with other women. He has sex with Tara, and it has to work for Grant too, in order for it to work for everybody. And so it was a nice wrap up. And so again, not my kink, not something that I, you know, was into and really liked, you know, but it worked nonetheless. So this is a 5 out of 5. So let's talk about the order of the books that, as I like them, and as my favorites, like the best, like the 5 stars, and then we can work our way down. So my favorite is Joseph and Noemi's. Joseph is like the dom of all doms. He's amazing. So this is a 5 out of 5 star for sure. And this is 3 Little Mistakes. Then the next is 3 Sweet Nothings, and 3 Sweet Nothings is the story between, this is Kyle and Ruby's story, and this is the second chance romance. Then the next is 3 Guilty Pleasures, that's Tara and Grant. Then 3 Hard Lessons, this is Peyton and Dominic's story, which was like really, really good. And so let me say, oh, I forgot to say, these first 3 are 5s, for sure. I gave this a 4 because I knocked it down for one little thing that you'll check out in there. And then 3 Simple Nothings, this is Logan and Evelyn's story, Evie. So, Logan and Evie, and this is a 4 star. This is One More Rule. This is the wrap-up of like what happens with the first 2 books, so that's next. Then I'm going to say the short novella, that's Nina's story, like It Takes Two, that one. I would put that one there. And then finally is Three Dirty Secrets. I don't like secrets. I hate them. I just don't, and I don't like double standards around secrets. And this is Regan and Silas's story. And so overall, like, I'm going to say this is hot and spicy, steamy, you know, like if you want to just something that's just like really sexy and really fun, but that challenges you in some ways to step out of that comfort zone and think about things in a different way, then I definitely recommend that you check out the Blindfold series. So that was my first real foray into Nikki Sloane, and I'm loving it. So I've got her other invitation series, and I've got the pool boy and the architect and the doctor and all that stuff. So I think I'm gonna take a break from Nikki Sloane, but I will dive back in and check her out some more. I'm definitely intrigued by her writing style. It was a fun ride. I highly recommend it. And so that is all that I have for today. So I really hope that you liked this video. Please like and subscribe. Come hang out with me more. And thank you so much for joining me. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!